What's going on, Spurs fans? Welcome to Spurs versus everybody's post game show. The Spurs beat the Thunder G League. My arm just broke on my microphone. Just beat the G League Thunder, who were sitting out most of their players. Kind of like a mental game to play with the Spurs, so they wouldn't like if they won, it messed with their mind. But they won 116-106. Obviously, I'm Greg. You don't see no Marshall here, so it's a solo dolo stream. Um, Kind of a disappointing win, if you would say. Like, if you would rank things, they were up about 20 plus. I think it was 22 at one point. You would have liked to have seen it at least stay there and just win by 20 at the end of it. But that didn't happen, or it didn't turn into a blowout. Actually, the Thunder hung, and credit to them. They never gave up. They played hard. They played with a lot of team effort. But it was still a win. A win is a win. At the end of the day, Spurs get the dub, 116-106. We can kind of look at kind of the tail kind of started happening around the second quarter. At the end of the second quarter, like Thunder started to make a little run. We answered back, but then in the third quarter, it's just when it started to get tight. And then in the third and fourth quarter, it was, they could never get it down where it was down to like 2 points or anything, or tied game or anything, where it got really interesting. But it was definitely still a interesting game overall. Let's go ahead and look. I mean, Keldon Johnson's probably going to be the player of the game. He had 25 points off the bench. We needed all those points too, so shout out to him. I thought Castle at the end of the game really stepped up, made some plays, hit some mid-range shots when the offense was struggling. He did, get blocked a couple of times. Maybe it was a little reckless at times, but I thought he had that big block too. So he definitely came up big for the Spurs. There's been a lot of talk about him and whole running point guard and, facilitating the offense and stuff like that. And it kind of throwing a wrench in things, but he came out when you needed him, so that's what it matters. And he's still really young, so there's no need to be hard on a player so young. Let's see where the Spurs really dominated. The 3-point line is what kept them in. Obviously, when you're down players, the 3-point line is always going to be the great equalizer in this game. They hit +5 on the 3-point line, on the 3-point margin. They just, hitting shots. I mean, some of it was just like not picking up in transition. Obviously, Jay Will had a big game. He's going to be the guy that's like, you live and die with Jay Will hitting threes. He's done a better job of hitting threes lately. But he hit Wiggins, his offensive ability, his growth as a player has been crazy over the years, seeing Wiggins develop. They just didn't have enough offense, the Thunder, to go ahead and get the dub, and they just didn't, they don't have their guys Caruso, Dort defensively to get some stops when it needed be. So free throws a +1, so not really that much of a margin. The rebound margin with the Spurs, nice. You like to see that. Marshall is also a big rebounding guy, so 8+9 on the offensive rebounds, plus if I could do my math correctly because I'm tired, +8 defensively. So they clean up the glass nicely. You don't want second chance points or anything, especially second chance threes. Shared the ball evenly. Both teams, obviously Presti's a Spurs disciple and kind of like in that mindset about sharing the ball, and the ball has movement and stuff like that. So it's definitely something the Spurs turnover wise, 14 apiece. Obviously, we saw some turnovers, some sloppy play at times that you don't want to see, but you want to keep that under 10 or 10 plus. The mark of a great Spurs team is about 10 turnovers or less. You want to take care of the rock. So you want to cut down those turnovers, and some of it's just over dribbling by Wemby or Castle, loses the ball. Fox, I think, remember Fox during a crucial time just dropped the ball out of a sudden, and when he was making a play in the basket. Points in the paint, 56 points. Keldon Johnson did a lot of work on the inside. They didn't really have a big presence. They don't have Chet. They don't have Hartenstein down there. It's Jay Will, who's kind of an undersized center. He's become more of a stretch 5 now, but he can facilitate the offense. But he's, he takes charges. He does the dirty work. He's a thick build, so he can still hold his. He's like a Boogie Cousins kind of thick build, so he can still kind of bang down there and pause and do his thing. So I mean, fast break points, 16-14. The Spurs, I need the Spurs, and I think fully healthy and fully a full complementary team. The Spurs are going to be a very dangerous transition team. Obviously, Fox is a dangerous transition player. Vassell, Keldon or Castle can get downhill, and I just think you need another big time shooter at the 4 position to give you that transition game. But once that's unlocked, that's going to be another thing along with the defense. Everything's going to come together eventually. Just the beginning of this, the Spurs turning over the contender leaf. You see that this Spurs led by 22 points, and that's the disappointing part, as the Spurs weren't able to go ahead and blow them out or at least keep it within 20, 15, 19, whatever. It got close. And that's the unfortunate part. That's why you can walk away. And as a coach, Miss Johnson, you're gonna love these kind of wins. Pop love these kind of wins. You get to learn something. You get to like count on the guys about stuff. Like who knows? A lot of people are gonna say like the Thunder were fully healthy, they would have won easily, and maybe that's true. Maybe the Spurs would have picked up their intensity, picked up, played more cleanly and would have matched it, and it would have been a good game, or maybe the Spurs win by a lot. I don't know. We'll never know. But the Spurs did win. Like I said, player of the game was Keldon Johnson, 25 points, 6 rebounds. We needed him, and the offense really stalled at times, and he wanted a heater. I think it was in the third. Him and Bryant. Oh, Bryant. I wouldn't even mention Bryant. I thought he had a very good game. Hitting his open threes, just he's still a work in progress, like driving the ball and stuff like that. And just overall game needs a lot of work, but him hitting threes is a nice sign to see. Like you're like, okay, like if I can believe in that 3 ball is going to go in and the rest will come around depending on his hard work and the development plan. But I definitely like to see him. I thought we saw a little bit too much Jordan McLaughlin, 13 minutes. And he was there was a point where he was in. I was like, I don't necessarily want Jordan McLaughlin in right now. I think it was in the beginning of the 4th. And I was like, you could get, under like the 5 or less. If I was like, I don't really want to see Jordan McLaughlin too much. So Harrison Barnes coming off the bench. He had 2 shots, like hit 2 threes. He thought he was gonna catch it, hurt a heater like he used to, but he just really didn't find his rhythm. Played pretty decent defense at the end, but Champagne probably over dribble a little bit too much. He's working on his driving game and up fake and getting to the rim and being more complete offensive player rather than just sniper. But sometimes it's still very scary. But he did his thing. Victor, Victor's numbers will always be gaudy, but you're like, did he enforce his will? Like no Chet, no Hardenstein. You would have liked to have seen him really dominate. But that's not how the game worked out. De'Aaron Fox floated in and out of the game. He had a crucial jumper and you thought it was going to be 4th quarter Fox, but 15 and 10, you can't really, snap your neck. I thought we saw him more on ball. Like at the beginning of the game, Stephon Castle pretty much was like running the baseline like you would Aaron Gordon or so on. He was a baseline runner, and they threw the alley-oop to him. And so that was an interesting wrinkle that I think they can use him in different ways, like in the dunker spot, running baseline to baseline, flashing in the middle for connected passes. So I think there's a lot of creative ways. I just want the Spurs to tap into that more than him just having to facilitate the offense a lot. Let's see how many turnovers he had. It's always a question about him and Wemby on turnovers. 3. So, 4-to-3 ratio, not the greatest, but he came up big when it mattered. So I give him credit for that for sure. Keldon 25 points mentioned. Luke, Luke just Carter Bryant was impressive. Vassell is so frustrating because he has those threes and he's done a better job this year, but like before he got hurt. But like whenever you need a 3, you're like, okay, we need a momentum killer, or we need a momentum bringer on, like a gainer, and he just breaks them, bro. And you're just like, oh my god, he was 2 of 10, 1 of 7, but he's coming back from injury, so I give him a break. And I also like the offense is kind of like clunky with all like these parts that necessarily don't fix together naturally right now. So a tough game overall. Pulled it out. That's all that matters. We'll just move on to the next one. It counts as a win in the win column. So next game will be. Let's look at the full schedule. At Dallas, we get Dallas 2 times. Cooper Flag has been looking really good, and if you're the Mavs, you're like, at least we got Cooper Flag at all of this. Now he lost AD. He went where did AD go? To Washington. So, that was random. He went to Washington, so you're like, wow, we didn't get anything from Luka, but there's still Cooper Flag there. They have picks now to operate. They're gonna have to hit on another star talent or two before they're really relevant, and depending on what Lively does. But yeah, we play them next in Dallas. Nice little rivalry the next 2 games. Hopefully 2 nice little dubs. Everybody feels good about each other. We move on to the LA, which these are kind of our hated teams that I don't really like. We respect Dallas. We don't really, I mean, we hate LA. Golden State just got Porzingis, but I think Porzingis has been injured, so I don't know what their thing is, but he's stretch big, stretch 5 that can theoretically guard the paint, even though he didn't really do it this year. So I'm thinking on 2 wins against Dallas, and then we'll go from there. But standings are going to be interesting. Let me bring them up real quick. I can't find them right off the bat, but still in second place. We cut a game off the lead. I think it's now 6 for the Spurs overall versus OKC. So 2 wins there. I'm trying to think of what else we need to talk about real quick. I mean, I'm going to wait for Marshall to do the NBA trade deadline stuff and let it really flesh out. But today was a crazy day overall for the trade deadline and around the league. So super crazy. I was like glued to Twitter looking to see who's getting what. Everybody has their opinion. I can't wait to talk to Marshall about his opinion on certain moves. Whether it's what Washington did to get ready. Triple J to Utah was shocking. I love it. A lot of people don't like it. I think it vaults them into like where the Cavs were pretty much before Donovan Mitchell, and they're fixing their defense, around Keontae George and Lauri Markkanen. And they could always trade Lauri and move Ace Bailey probably to the 3, and play Jackson to 4, and then kind of find, if they get Peterson or whoever in the draft, they can go ahead and slot him in, and then they'll be good to go. So a lot of teams are making moves to be competitive. A lot of teams are, the CBA, these windows are closing quickly. You can't just sit around and develop talent and hopefully everything. And then you gotta move because talent becomes expensive. You're not always going to replenish it like just replenish guys that role players easily. So you got to make moves and go. Like at some point, you can't just sit back and wait for the perfect team. I know it's a lot of teams believe that and they try to do that, but at some point, you've got to also. Not every team can go by that strategy. Like you have to make moves and you have to, be good at some point. And I think Washington, Utah, proven like with Keontae George's breakout, they have Walker Kessler, they have Lauri. That they're ready to make the next move. Same with Washington with Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Like you have guys there that need to start winning, that are good players that, you probably have two starters, outside of Trae Young and Anthony Davis on that team, and Star and Keyshawn George. And we'll see what happens to Trey Johnson looks good. So they should be interesting. There's going to be a lot of young, interesting teams coming up. The Hornets look good. They made a trade. But I'm going to wait for Marshall to talk about all that because that's more exciting than me just blabbering on. In the NBA tonight, let's see. Any interesting? Houston got whacked by Boston, which is super surprising. Boston's, this good. Giannis, they won, but we'll see what overall happens with him. He's the big domino. Everybody's saying that he might get traded this year. This before the trade deadline, which is tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern? Question mark. So we'll see what other moves are gonna happen. Other teams need to still make moves. So, but this has been a nice little wrap up. Hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. That'd be much appreciated. You can find us on all social medias at Spurs versus Everybody. Going to be a lot more consistent nowadays because I'm, just trying to stay focused on things, positive things that bring me joy. And this is one of them. And I got to get better at it. And I just feel like I can do it, man. And so you're going to see me a lot more. You'll see Marshall pop in. He's excited. He seems like he's rejuvenated. To talk Spurs basketball, we got the playoffs coming up. We're going to go check out some games. So a lot of exciting things are happening. So I can't wait. Can't wait. It's going to be a great season still trying to get through it. But I guess we'll catch you later, man. Peace.